Anthropic just announced Claude Code on the web. If you're ready to open up your app or a website and just kick off a coding task and have Claude go work on it asynchronously, today's your lucky day. If you're familiar with Codex in the cloud, this is the same thing. This just gives us the ability to kick off tasks and have Claude run them in the cloud asynchronously, and you can stack as many tasks up as you like. So let's take a quick look at what Anthropic just released. So Anthropic just announced Claude Code on the web. It's still in beta as a research preview, but if you're a Pro or a Max subscriber, you have access to it starting today. That's the $20 a month and the $100 a month tier. So this means you can open up a website, connect to a repository in GitHub, and start one or multiple tasks. Each task gets its own virtual machine, its individual environment spun up, and Claude gets to work on all of your tasks asynchronously. Once it's done, it lets you know, and then you can go take a look. It's available on the web and on their iOS app. All right, so what does that look like? So to find it, you can just log into your regular Claude account and go over here and look for code. That opens up the Claude Code cloud computing website. You can connect to your GitHub repo. You will have to set this up the first time. You might have to install a GitHub app. That will take you to GitHub and ask you to log in and authenticate that Claude can connect to your GitHub repos. But once you do that, you can select the repo that you want to work on and start asking Claude to make some changes. If you need to add things like environment variables, you can do that over here. So you might need API keys, you might need database URLs, anything that you need to set up for that individual project, you can do that here. It looks like you can name it and create individual environments. So if you always have the same settings you might use for testing or for certain projects, you can just set them up once, create that environment, and it sounds like just keep using them over and over on any project that has the same settings. So I have this website that just looks at different national park webcams, and you can roll the dice basically and get the next random webcam. This gives me a chance to remember there's a world outside just my desk. Right now it's just got a static list of webcams that it chooses from. I really enjoy playing with it, but it doesn't look great. So I thought I would just try to make a few updates to it. So the first thing that I asked it to do was update the button on my webcam, roll a random webcam, little dice. That could use a little fancying up. I also wanted to add some more webcams to my list. I had started with just a few sort of as a proof of concept, but it's been really fun to play with, so I said, go maybe add 10 or 15 more to the list. Another task that I wanted it to work on was, since it's got this static list of webcams, maybe we could add a search field. So like if I was in the mood to look at anything with water or forest, just give it a search field and let it give me maybe 2 or 3 example webcams, and I could choose which one I wanted to look at. So it went off and worked on all of these asynchronously, and now it's done so we can take a look. So each task, just like in Codex, is individual. Each task has its own code base, and in fact, when it's done, it goes and creates a brand new branch on the GitHub repo. If I wanted to, I could keep asking for individual changes inside of this branch. But of course, I want to go look at the changes first and see what they look like. So there's a couple of ways you can do that. I think you can just go grab this entire GitHub URL and check out that branch. But they've sort of given us a shortcut here with the Open in CLI button that will copy a command to the clipboard, and then you can paste it into your Claude Code CLI. You do have to be in a CLI environment to use this. So far, it doesn't look like there's any integration with like the Cursor IDE integration. For now, it only works in the CLI. So the other thing is you have to be in Claude and you have to have that repo already checked out. If you try to paste this command in the middle of an empty directory, it won't know what to do with it. Assuming you've got the code checked out, you paste that command in here, and then it'll ask you if you want to check out that new branch. I'm just going to say yes to everything it asks me. And now we're on the Improve Random Webcam button branch. All right, so then I can go start my server up and reload my webcam viewer. Nice. And now we have a fun little surprise me button. And you never know what you're going to get. All right, so that one looks pretty good. So then if you want to take a look at the next change, you have to go through the same process. You would copy the command for that branch, go back to your Claude Code environment, paste it back in, and let it check out the new branch. All right, so now we're on the Add National Parks Can branch and reload. And so remember, the last branch was the Surprise Me button. So now we're back to the website as it appears in the main branch, but with new webcams added. Some of these are definitely new cameras, so that's kind of an exciting day for me. It's snowing out there, isn't it? Got some webcams that don't work. All right, great. I mean, so that looks pretty good. The other thing that I do like about this, if we scroll up to the top, and as it's working, it does give you this, it feels very much like Claude Code working. Creates a task, it does a bunch of stuff, it kind of lets you know every step of the way what it's doing, it researches the project that it's working on, and it creates a to-do list. Tells you what it's doing, it updates its to-do list as it's working, and then finally when it's done, it summarizes everything that it did. Total webcams increased from 40 to 55, tells you what the changes were. I mean, this is really nice. This feels exactly to me like being inside of Claude Code. The clarity that it works with, it makes me feel like I really have insight into what it was working on and what it's changed. So I have to say, the form factor is just really nice. Codex I do use quite a bit, but it always is a little bit more technical and a little bit more terse. I think Claude has just always done a fantastic job with their presentation, and it's no different in Claude Code in the cloud. They've really continued to carry that work through. All right, so then we're back to the can I search my webcams? You can see all the work that went in. Copy, I think you're starting to see the pattern here. Let it do its work. Now, I do want to point out the first time I came in here and I pasted in that line from the clipboard about teleporting, and Claude had no idea what I was talking about. I had forgotten to check out any code from the repo. I was, I don't know, sort of thinking it would just magically put everything in for me, and it does not. It had no idea what I was saying. But once I checked out the code, I tried that command again. It still did seem slightly confused, so I thought, okay, I will just come back in here and copy and paste this entire branch URL. Maybe that will help it. And I pasted that in here. And between the two, Claude was smart enough to figure out what I was trying to do, that there was a branch with that session ID name from the teleport session command, and it got everything smoothed out. And ever since then, each time I pasted the new teleport session command back in, it's had no problem at all. So if it acts a little confused at the start, just keep asking it, telling it what you're trying to do, and as always, Claude will figure out what it is you're working on. So let's take a look at just a few of the quick technical specifications. Claude Code on the web, right now, available for Pro users and Max users, coming soon to Teams and Enterprise. Get started, visit claude.ai/code, or just your regular Claude account, and look for that Code tab on the menu. Connect your GitHub account, install Claude GitHub app in your repositories, and then just select the repo that you want to work on and start working. For each task, Claude Code on the web will clone the repository, set up the environment, the network configuration, and then basically do all of its Claude stuff, task execution, completion, results. And remember, when it's done, the changes are pushed to a branch on GitHub. So you can always find the individual changes there. This does mean, however, you're going to have a bunch of branches on GitHub. This does include the main branch, and then there's another couple branches I had created to make a few tests, but this will require some management in the end on our parts. And then to see your tasks sort of completed and in action, click the Open in CLI button, paste and run the command in your terminal in a checkout of the repo. That part is important. Any existing local changes will be stashed and the remote session will be loaded. I haven't tested that out. Theoretically, if you're in that repo working on something, it should hold your changes for you, but you might want to double check that the first time just to make sure that's actually how it works. So what tools does it have available? You can see what's pre-installed in your environment. Ask Claude Code to run check tools. Claude Code on the web only works with code hosted in GitHub. GitLab and other non-GitHub repos cannot be used with the cloud sessions. So right now, only GitHub. Best practices, use Claude Code hooks. Configure session start hooks to automate environment setup, dependency installation, and network configuration. I'll admit, hooks are not something I've looked at a whole lot. And document requirements. Because this works just like your regular Claude environment, it will respect anything that's in your claude.md file. And if you have an agents.md file, they recommend that you source it in your claude.md file using @agents.md to maintain a single source of truth. All right, so now I've got a main branch and I've got at least 4 branches with changes that I think I actually want to keep. So I'm going to go into this button task and I'm going to say, yeah, I like that. Let's create a PR. So this is just a pull request. This is basically creating a way to get the code merged back into the main branch. No conflicts. Great. I can add my comments here, changed the button to be prettier, and then I'm going to say, let's merge this pull request. Yep. Confirm. All right, it's merged and closed. And so now I want to delete the branch so that I'm not leaving all these orphaned branches in my GitHub repo. All right, that's one. And so I'm assuming if this works like Codex, because I've now merged this back into the main branch, I don't want this sort of littering up my workspace and I want to archive it, get it out of my view. It's been taken care of. I dealt with it in the way that I wanted to. Let's get rid of it. All right, so now I want to add more national park streams. I liked that change too. Can I just create that PR? Now, of course, I haven't tested this with the button change. I'm just going to throw caution to the wind and assume that it works and see what happens. Create the pull request. No conflicts. All right, that's pretty good news. I would assume it would not conflict because they're pretty separate parts of the code. Now with more parks. Comment, merge, confirm, delete, and archive. So that's roughly the process you would want to follow. Obviously, probably some of the changes that you're making do need to be really thoroughly tested together. I happen to have a couple of very small tasks that I know wouldn't conflict with each other. So I just kind of wanted to test out that PR functionality, and it looks like it works the same as Codex. But some of these other ones, I do need to test them with the updated merged main branch, because these will probably be touching some of the same code that some of the other changes made. So I do want to go back and test that a little bit more thoroughly before I merge that together. But that's the basics of what it's asking us to do. There is definitely still a lot of human involvement in the management of each of these individual little tasks. Since they are all off running individual little environments, they don't have visibility to each other. So it is incumbent upon us to come back and make sure that everything plays well together and then get that all merged back into one happy code base. All right, so I have to say, overall, I am really impressed. That felt very much like using Claude, but a much lighter weight way of using Claude, because I didn't have to log in and get the repo all set up and running before I could just say, oh, here's my repo. Here's a task I want you to work on. Could you just go do that? I could just spin off several changes that I've been thinking about making in the back of my mind, but there's always that little bit of cognitive weight to actually getting everything up and running and then going and asking for the change and then waiting and hitting OK and waiting for everything to come back and make sure it's successful before you get to the next one. So I'm really happy to see that Claude has added cloud coding to the Claude family. And I have to say, it's a really nice interface. It's very comfortable, just like Claude Code. We would expect nothing less at this point, but I'm always happy to see when a company does as good of a job as you have come to expect from them. All right, that's it for today. Please consider a like or a subscribe if you enjoyed that content, and let me know if you have any other questions about Claude Code in the cloud that you'd like me to cover in the next video. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. And that is the Brooks Falls brown bear cone.